Hi, I'm Angie Veman, and welcome to Totally Clutch. This is the podcast for women like you to find ways to simplify your business and personal life. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Welcome back to another episode of Totally Clutch, the Clutch Businesses podcast and vlog. And I'm really excited about our guest today. So Kim David has helped dozens and soon to be hundreds of businesses really cut the time that they spend on marketing in half. And she hails from some pretty big names in the marketing world. So she's worked in the marketing department for the Yankees and is a Forbes 30 under 30 finalist, which is incredible. And she now owns her own firm. So she's which is called Freebird Society. And she is focusing with that agency or with that firm on working with BIPOC and women entrepreneurs. And today she's here to talk to us about the trends that she sees coming for us in 2023. And we'll also have an opportunity to talk about what worked in 2022. So with that, welcome to the show, Kim.
Hey, Angie. Well, thank you. Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, marketing, I think I had, when I reached out to ask you to be a guest, I had said that the marketing episodes that we've done are always the most popular. So it's the thing, I'm sure that, this is no surprise to you, but it feels like the thing that every business owner is like, that's my number one focus for the year is marketing.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, honestly, so I actually this year launched my own podcast called Everything is Marketing. And I truly believe in that statement. That's actually one of the things that we'll talk about too as a 2022 trend.
That's great. Awesome. So fun. I love that name too. Yeah. So you've come from some pretty big names. Do you want to tell us a bit about your background and kind of how you came to do things on your own?
Sure. So I'm really lucky in the sense that I found marketing pretty early on in my career. Actually, while I was still in undergrad, that's when I started my very first marketing internship with a company called the Shorty Awards. Anyone who's been in like corporate marketing for the past decade is probably familiar with this. The Shorty Awards are basically an awards that a couple guys created when Twitter first came out to celebrate all the like random cool things that people were doing on social media. So I got into digital marketing very early on, before major brands were even on Twitter. And so from there, I actually became an insights analyst. And so I did a lot of social listening, which is a form of research. It's a qualitative form of research where basically I spent a lot of time reading tweets and forum posts and blog posts about brands, and then using that information to discern insights that would then inform strategy and what they would do from a marketing perspective. So I built a really solid foundation of how to use data and how to use human-centered data, most importantly, to inform marketing. And I was doing all of this while still at ad agencies. And so while still in the agency world, I actually shifted from an insights analyst to a strategist. And that's when everything completely changed, because now I've understood that with marketing, it's not just, you share your tagline on a graphic in whatever format, and then people see it and then they buy that thing. There is so much like just research and putting all the puzzle pieces together and really orchestrating a plan that goes into doing marketing well. So I got to do that for a lot of major brands, the Yankees included. I feel like list every major brand you could think of, from Target to Ferrari. And so the Yankees actually were my client before I got to work in-house.
Oh, wow.
And so they ended up hiring me to run their entire digital and social media department, and create it from the ground up in the company. And so that for me was a huge catalyst for growth in my career, because I actually got that job when I was 24 years old.
Wow.
It was my first six-figure role. And for me, it was actually ironic. And I know we're not talking about this subject in particular, but I think your audience might resonate. Prior to getting that job offer, which completely came out of the blue, I was pushing for a promotion, a raise, more money, a title bump or something at the company that I was at, because I was consistently winning. I was consistently winning pitches and outperforming a lot of the people on my team, even though I was the youngest. And my manager at the time literally told me word for word that he can't give me a promotion because I just graduated college.
No.
And so then a couple months later, to get this job and essentially become his boss was so vindicating. And so I just wanted to share that story that,
That's amazing.
It's we live in a world oftentimes where, especially early on in your career, you're at the whim of where other people place you. But one of the things that I love about digital marketing and the world that we live in now is that removes a lot of those boundaries. Like internet jobs didn't exist when I was in college in the way that they do now. And so it's much easier for people coming up in the marketing world to not be beholden to those types of limitations put on by other people. And so from there, I just continued to grow my marketing skill set. And over the past 3 years, I started to just get my toes wet in entrepreneurship. I started to feel the rub of being in corporate America and being a young woman of color. And so it just got to a point where previously I thought entrepreneurship would never be for me. I thought what a risk and all the pressure it would be to be responsible for my income. It just felt like a safer choice to stay in the corporate world. But more and more, every single opportunity that I had in the corporate world, I was being shown that actually I have a lot less control than I thought.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just started, getting clients, just trying to do whatever I could to work with anyone in like a one-on-one freelancing or consulting capacity. And in the beginning, I learned that I needed to have a little bit more business strategy because I was working on projects that weren't as fulfilling for me. And so within about 2.5 years, I pretty much got to the place that I'm in right now with my business, where I've launched Freebird Society. I've niched down to working specifically with women entrepreneurs and BIPOC entrepreneurs. And not just that, but the people that I'm working with are very value driven and they're very purpose driven.
Yeah.
I am not interested in working with businesses that just want to scale and grow to get super large. Like that's not what it's about for me anymore. Of course, I help my clients gain revenue. Of course, I help them scale their businesses. But what's most important to me, both from my own business and who I work with, is that people are offering services or products that actually help people, that actually make this world a better place. And that in the process of delivering those products and services and even making them, that we're considering sustainability and that we're considering, the impact on not just like the world in an environmental sense, but how those things are affecting the people who work at these companies and our audiences and that whole big picture.
Yeah, I love it. There's so much just in that right there, in everything that you just said. There's so much there. I think, one of the things, so we had another guest on this season that talked about PR, Caitlin, and, she is really value driven in the work that she does as well, and works with very value driven people. And in a lot of ways, so, I think the fear is that if we lead with our value, if we let that be the driving force, that we aren't going to make as much money, that people aren't really going to be as drawn to what we have. And it's actually kind of the reverse. Oftentimes, if you can really find a way to talk about what it is that you value and why it's important, it is going to draw people to you even more. It's really, and it gives you, as a marketer, it gives you some really like juicy content instead of just like, here's this product here, here's the features and here's why you should buy it. There's just a little bit more earthiness to it.
Absolutely. I'm totally forgetting the stat behind it, but the majority of motivation that comes into play when we're making a decision is emotionally driven. It's not about the facts. It's not about, the functional message behind whatever it is. If we can make people feel something when we communicate with them, that is a much more compelling way to go about building a relationship and ultimately making a sale than, listing out the bullet points of like what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's probably a good transition into the trends, the marketing trends, or the things that are starting, that we're starting to see. So were there some big, some big common trends of 2022?
Yeah, so I would say that the biggest trend, and I actually remember writing about this like in December of 2021, just like trying to make sure that people knew that this is something that they should be doing this year, is live selling. So throughout the pandemic, I would say almost every single platform that you can think of had optimized a live broadcast capability. So literally everything from, obviously Instagram and Facebook have existed for a while, but now you can do that on Pinterest. You can also live stream on LinkedIn. Then there's also like YouTube and Twitch are really popular platforms. And then TikTok, of course. But what's really important here is that people kind of act like live broad streams are a new thing. That's not necessarily the case, right? Because live TV has been around forever.
Totally.
That's kind of where we started. We also know how compelling selling on live TV is. We've all seen HSN and QVC. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of like uncomfortableness that comes with showing up on social media, specifically live. I think a lot of people feel, and especially in the US with the past couple of years, just what a cesspool, especially Facebook and Meta has become. It can be scary to just put yourself out there on these platforms where it feels like you have maybe less control when you go live and like who can show up on your platform, or, if people ask you a question that throws you off, it can kind of be scary. But when you're live selling, it's much more easy to build trust with someone. It happens much faster, and you're able to get people what they need much more quickly. If they're able to ask you a question about whatever product you're talking about immediately and get that answer, it's much easier for them to then go and click the link that you just shared to complete that sale. But I think, overall live selling, just in terms of format, and the ability to build relationships with people a lot quicker, are great reasons to get on the platform, or at least try it out.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I've been playing around with video here and there since I started my business. And I always had this mindset of like, okay, I can only do, there was always a limitation in place. I wasn't doing as many, and they weren't as casual, or, I put a lot of time into writing scripts. Let's be honest, I put a lot of time into getting ready because I felt like I had to have makeup on and a cute outfit and all of that kind of stuff. And still, I have clients that do that as well. And it's a kind of a grind to get things from them, because it's almost like everything has to be perfect before they get on that camera. And I'm only going through this to say that, so I live in Colorado, and we have, it's 2022 and global warming is a thing. And so I had planted my garden this year, and then we got a huge snowstorm, like big snowstorm. And so I busted out my camera on my phone. I put up like a little tripod in the yard and recorded myself covering my plants with tarps and garbage bags. Like, just as, I did like a time lapse or whatever, and my dog running around and all of that kind of stuff. And did my first reel with that content. And I was absolutely blown away. I looked like garbage. I had like a bun in my hair. I had no makeup on. I was wearing, my glasses and like a workout outfit, and, and anyways, first reel, I got like, this is for most people probably no big deal, but like 2,000 views on it. And I was like,
it's awesome.
Okay. Like that was like you couldn't be more casual than that. And like, who cares about watching somebody cover their plants, right? But it was like, just like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to, put it together. Anyways, it was shocking to me and kind of freeing that, I literally rolled out of bed and started doing this, and actually people started to listen a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, so this actually isn't one of the trends that I had identified coming into this conversation, but I think it's important to talk about that, exactly what you're talking about in terms of like showing up maybe in a less polished way, or just, how you are in the moment, is actually something that's becoming not just more popular, but more welcome and accepted, even when we're talking about marketing for your business. So I think that this is something that was triggered by both the pandemic, but also the nature of TikTok. So early on, when TikTok really started becoming a lot more popular, people were making the comparisons between that platform and how people show up on Instagram. That Instagram is a lot more about being polished, having a pretty feed, and TikTok is just about the content. Yeah. But I think that that's not necessarily true anymore about that just being on TikTok. I think that's even true on Instagram as well. Like we've seen, they're not as trendy anymore, but just like the photo dumps where people are just posting all these random pictures as a post, like we are moving to this space where it's just a lot more about like communicating and delivering, like, what is your mindset? Like, where are you at right now in life? More so than it's about like, let me spend all this time to create like a perfect little picture that I can share with this long caption. It's more about like, how do you communicate that visually as quickly as possible? And then the other thing is, in terms of, I love that the video that you created was of you covering those plants. I completely relate, by the way. The weather in New York has been just as crazy.
So weird.
Yeah, at least Mother Nature will figure it out. It's not my problem. But, the fact that you did that, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with your business in terms of subject matter, but the fact that people are watching you like care for your plants in this way allows them to relate to you in another way. I also love plants now, and this is like another connection that we have. And as someone looking to potentially hire you, me relating to you as a person in that way makes me even more likely to support your business. And that's not a trend. That's just a general thing in marketing that we all need to remember. And again, it goes back to like that emotional connection that you're trying to build with people.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, so some things that worked well in 2022. Yes. Those will probably carry forward, a bit in 2023. Were there some things that just did not work, like steer clear, this kind of bombed?
Yeah. So one of the things, and I think we're just getting better. One of the things that I think a lot of people aren't doing the best yet is real-time messaging or their use of chatbots. So in general, I'll talk about just real-time messaging first. So this is the idea that when someone follows you on Instagram or Facebook, even LinkedIn, this could be the case where once someone immediately follows you, you show up in their messages, just being like, hey, I saw that you followed me. Let's chat. I think that there's like different camps in terms of how, people's perspective on this. I think generally it's a great, there's great intention behind it of wanting to build that relationship. But I think the way that I'm seeing lots of business owners go about it is not really strategic or thoughtful. Oftentimes I'm seeing business owners do this in a manual way where they'll just show up and it's awkward, right? Like you don't know what question to ask. And so the common question that I see is people just saying, how did you find me? Or, hey, I saw that you just followed me. Let me know how I can support you. Off the bat, when someone just started following you, you have no idea what content they saw before they came to you. You have no idea how they found you. And I guess that's one reason why people are asking, right? Like, how did you come to me? But I think it's important to give people more time to figure out like what you're about, to let that value exchange happen. But then B, if you do want to initiate that conversation, you have to continue to offer, like, start with value. You're the business owner. You need to set the precedent that this is a relationship that's based on a value exchange. So a better way to approach that message could be like, hey, I saw that you just followed me. I do XYZ. Here's my freebie, or here's a piece of content that can help you, grow your business, or whatever it is that you focus on from a content perspective. The other side of that is using chatbots, right? So this is a really efficient way to essentially do the same thing, show up in people's DMs to start that one-to-one conversation. And also the other reason why people are doing this is to amp up personalization so that you can like make people feel like you're talking to them and only them. Now, the thing with chatbots is this is still a relatively new technology, and it falls under the umbrella of AI overall. So I think that this works well for bigger companies or companies that need to offer support in terms of troubleshooting, where it's a very consistent, structured messaging hierarchy. But if you are just starting off a conversation with a random person that just followed you all willy-nilly, it's going to be much harder to narrow down what that conversation should really be about in order to get them the value that they need. Yeah. So that's a critical piece that's missing. And then the other thing is for just humans in general, for most of us, interacting with AI is new. We're still learning what we're comfortable with. And, when we see conversations, there are some people who aren't aware that it's AI, and there's some people who are innately aware. And so there's just a lot more that's that needs to evolve from a business perspective, that I think business owners need to be a little bit more open to the fact that this is something that the whole world is still trying to figure out, how do we make it work for us? Mm-hmm. So I think we need to just be careful in terms of when we say chatbot or investing in this is a great idea. It is, but is it the best idea for every single business? I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting to think about it from the standpoint of I think, so I am obsessed with automations. I think that they're, this is what I hang my hat on in my business is, making sure that things are streamlined and that, you're not doing a lot of things manually. But when you think about things, I think this is a great illustration of finding that balance and just being real and honest with yourself and your business is that, if you're a company that, that has a lot of customer service, you have a call center, you have tons of people connecting with you on a daily basis, like you said, for troubleshooting or just, really almost the same specific question or maybe, anyways, then yeah, a chatbot might make sense. But if you're not getting a lot of people interacting and contacting you on a daily basis, why wouldn't you make those interactions even more valuable and more rich? And you're never going to get that with AI. That's just not it. So you put all of this energy into, setting up this chatbot, and which isn't the easiest thing. And you end up kind of pushing people away instead of drawing them in.
Exactly. Yeah. I think oftentimes in this world, it can be very overwhelming as a business owner because we have, I would say, an unlimited amount of choices in terms of all of the marketing tools and bells and whistles that we can use. And yeah, I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but really for my clients, and I feel sometimes I'm outing myself when I say this, but for my clients, it's not that I'm able to show them, which bells and whistles they need to be investing in, or that I'm bringing the latest and greatest in terms of what capabilities are out there. But it's really the way that I help my clients make more money is really about, taking away all of that window dressing and figuring out what is the most strategic way to invest our resources to get to the results that we want. And oftentimes that looks like a lot less than what my clients are doing before they start work with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think something that struck me, when you and I first connected and first talked, what struck me is that, I think that especially in small business and in an online business community, it's very focused on here are all the things that you should be doing. You've got to be posting regularly on Instagram. You've got to be posting regularly on Facebook, like whatever, send out your newsletter, go live, do all of these things. And what's interesting is, I mean, maybe you get a little grace here and there by somebody saying, pick one and put your energy there. Yeah. But what struck me about your approach is that you can do all of that, but if your message isn't clear, if your offerings aren't clear, if you don't have, and there is an element of being a business owner where you do have to just kind of figure that stuff out by throwing spaghetti against the wall, right? Like you don't always know. And that is a voice that comes over time, but you can go and burn yourself out doing all of those things, and people will be listening, but they don't know what they're listening for. And they're not going to be doing what you want them to do because you're not making a clear offer. You're not providing clear value. And so, really the work that we should be doing is just like really honing in on what that is. Like, what is our message? What do we offer? And that feels amazing, because then you can go out on all of those things, or you can go out on just your favorite one. And as long as your message is clear, it's going to work. It's going to take off.
Yeah. And I think actually just one other thing to add to that, it's yes, absolutely those two pieces, but it's also having clarity around the role of each channel that you're using. Because when you look at the marketing funnel, like just those 4 categories of awareness, consideration, conversion, and then I call the last one delight, you're spending most of your effort and energy nurturing that audience through that funnel. And so what that is like the consideration and delight phase is both about nurturing. And so people, I think, forget that the majority of communication that you're doing with your audience is just about nurturing and about fostering those relationships. And not every platform or tool available to you is built to nurture relationships. And so there has to also be this awareness of like, what are you trying to do in each place, in each moment that you're in, that you have the opportunity to interact with the consumer, and being really strategic about how you're showing up in that moment.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay. I feel like there's already so much here, but let's talk about 2023. So we know 2022, we're familiar. What's happening in 2023? Like, what should people be doing, and what things are kind of on the horizon there?
So 2 things. I think the first thing is that people are getting more comfortable leaving social media and just moving away from it as like the central point for their marketing. So I actually also wrote about this in late 2021, where I started seeing a lot of like major brands leave social media. I think it's easier when you're a major brand and have that like global awareness. There were some fashion brands that had left. I think it's easier to do that, when you're a large brand. But I am seeing more of my clients just, come to terms with their frustration, and instead of forcing themselves to continuously show up on these platforms that, for me specifically with Meta, Facebook and Instagram, it's an ethical concern for me. And I feel like I've been talking about this, that like, you don't need social media to grow your business, but I'm finally seeing people come to me and say, yes, like I'm on the same page. Now let's do it. It doesn't feel like I'm just trying to, like I'm shouting in the dark, just trying to like tell people that, there's another way and there's a better way. So I think I'm excited to see people continue to leave these major platforms and focus on platforms that are more nourishing for themselves. And the reason for that is because we're also seeing this like macro shift in terms of marketing overall, where people are moving from how marketing has been done traditionally, like the Mad Men marketing. People also call it like the bro marketing, where it's a lot more like fear-based. It's based on more like outward and intentional manipulation manipulation of your consumers to get them to do what you want. However, I think what we're shifting to is a more ethical approach to marketing, which I think it's always been about this, but marketers are now leading with the approach that it's about building relationships, that you need to get to know your consumer and your ideal audience in a way so that you can offer them value that they want, that they're ready to receive. But then it's not just about you giving and giving, but that you're allowing for them to engage with you and that you're creating opportunities for them to give back to you as well. And again, like being able to do that well requires you being grounded in that marketing funnel, going from awareness to delight, and then just continually, circling back. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. And then so we're doing relationship-based marketing for 2023. And what I guess, and potentially considering like where we're putting this stuff, where we're showing up for our customer base.
Oh yeah. Just one more thing. Sorry. So the other thing that I think is going to be big in 2023 is, and we saw this happening also in 2022, but this goes again along the lines of like the whole everything is marketing approach. So I think what we're seeing a lot more is coming to terms with the fact that like there are no clear boundaries, like there's not a literal line drawn in the sand or in the world that we live in that separates like who we are as humans between who we show up in the professional world. Like previously, when companies, marketed all of the different messages that they had, like they might have corporate marketing where that's where they talk about their business values and how they show up, and how they manifest for their employees. And they kept that messaging completely separate from consumers. But I think now we're seeing that that's not the case anymore. There aren't these swim lanes. Consumers are your employees and vice versa. And so it's really important to make those values visible in terms of your marketing, because your consumers care about how you're treating your employees. They care about how you do business, because when we talk about values being the basis of all of your marketing, those values are what your relationship that you're building with your audience, that's what they're based on. Yeah. So in 2022, we saw the Show Us Your Leave movement. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
But basically this was around when the family leave policy was up for debate in Congress. And so basically a bunch of companies made their leave policy public. And they were challenged to do so by the public. There was a hashtag going on LinkedIn called hashtag Show Us Your Leave. And so plenty of companies were challenged to step up to the plate and offer better parental leave because our stupid government couldn't do that. And it was great because it became a marketing campaign for many companies. Etsy is one in particular that did this really well. They kind of said, okay, like you guys want to challenge us? Like we're going to make a whole marketing campaign out of this. And so I just think that when we talk about everything as marketing, like businesses can no longer hide their problematic behaviors and policies and ways about going about business anymore. And that's not just the case for big businesses. Like even the super small businesses need to be wary about this. Like no NDA can save your ass anymore. Like that's not happening.
No. And like, get your house in order, y'all. Like it's as a consumer, it's super exciting to me. I mean, I know that it's very scary for these corporations and even these small businesses that are not, and I also have to give credit. I'm not meaning to turn this into like a psychology session, but we're not really trained. We're not really taught how to, as humans in the United States, how to have that emotional intelligence and how to show up in that, in this really holistic, true, and authentic way. It's something that we have to teach ourselves. And it's, it is, I feel like I keep saying this about so many things lately, but it's like a reckoning in a lot of ways. And there's a part of me that is just, I get it. I have compassion for how hard that is to grapple with. And, and it is a life's work to get to that place. And as a consumer, it's so exciting to me. It's just, I am loving doing business with companies that are starting to think about things outside of profit. And it's pretty, I love it. I'm really here for it.
Yeah, I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm curious, what are you most excited about in marketing right now, or for the coming year, whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be what we just talked about. It's really this idea that marketing isn't just marketing that lives, within a defined box anymore. It's every move and decision that you make as a business. And so, yes, we'll start there. But in order to get to that point, you need strategy. And so that is, obviously what I do. That's my bread and butter. And oftentimes strategy has been so overlooked, even in the agency world, working with these major companies. It's very tempting to just jump ahead to tactics and to how things are going to, manifest creatively. But even if you have like a really interesting, creative, execution, if it's not built upon a solid strategy, good luck getting the results that you intended. Yeah. And so it just makes, all of your investments more worthwhile when you are investing in that strategy from the outset. And so I think because we're getting to this place where now it's not just about your 3 core marketing channels and making sure that they've got always on content showing up there. It's really about this like overarching messaging that then trickles down into all of the different places that you show up. I think the fact that business owners are just becoming more aware to the fact that you cannot avoid investing in strategy. That is it's a necessity for growth. That's most exciting for me.
Okay, that's awesome. I love it. And then I guess my final question is, how can people take advantage of these trends and work with you if they are interested?
Yeah. So, I mean, they can definitely take advantage of these trends by, again, investing in strategy. Any strategist that you work with that's worth their salt is going to really help you try to discern like what are the channels and things to be investing on that you really should be. And then what are the things that you might be wasting time and money on? And that's really where I come into focus with my clients. So the main way that people can work with me right now is in a 4 to 6 week program where I will help you develop your annual marketing plan by the end of 3 workshops. I really love this program because I just get such great feedback from the clients that I've ended up working with on this, where because we're doing things in a workshop format, I'm essentially walking them through all the key decision points towards building a strategy. And a lot of clients don't see that work happening. It's kind of like showing them how the sausage is made. And so once clients finish working with me, they have so much clarity around what actually went into developing that program that now they feel a lot more confident about executing it and making it happen. And the main way that you can find me is on my website, freebirdsociety.com. I'm also working on a couple of new offerings that'll be available probably by the time you see this. So definitely reach out to me there. And I'm always open to just meeting new people, connecting with other entrepreneurs. So feel free to reach out to set up just an email chat, and we can do like a virtual coffee chat as well.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think you touched on something that I've started to see more and more now, that, more and more marketers are out there and working with smaller businesses that, are maybe just making their first big investment into marketing, is that, the results are important. It's important to be able to see that you're, I guess, getting a return on it and also connecting with people. And so it's amazing that you provide that as well, because that's huge. It's really crippling. I mean, for small businesses to, feel kind of dependent on people that aren't a part of their business on a daily basis to be able to figure out what's happening and start to pull levers and make adjustments to things. So that's great that you offer that too.
Thank you. I mean, that's really why I position myself as a fractional CMO. I have a skill set that's proficient enough in all of the different platforms, but I'm definitely not a platform specialist. A
Yeah.
lot of entrepreneurs start out with the platform specialist, which is great to, keep things moving. But when it comes to scaling and long-term business growth, you need to be making marketing decisions from really a bird's eye view, and considering the next year, 3 years, and 5 years. And so relying on a strategist like myself that has more of that like comprehensive background is really the way to go when that's the path forward for your business.
Totally, totally. Especially when you come at it too. So you've got that beautiful bird's eye view, but you also have, you come from such a strong background of like having your ear to the ground and really knowing what people are connecting with and what they're looking for. So, I mean, that's like, to me, the perfect blend, the perfect recipe.
Thank you. Just one more thing on that. I have to add, like, it can be very overwhelming with social media because it does change every single day. And I think the way that I've been able to maintain that skill set is, I actually took a break from myself off of social media and Facebook for the past 6 months. And it can be kind of, I felt a little insecure about like, what's the latest, changes that I'm missing that I'm not bringing to my clients or whatever it is. But there's other ways that you learn about what's new. And it's always going to change. Like I joke with one of my clients who's like, you're saving me through Instagram. I'm like, half the time I'm figuring it out myself too, because every single day it's a new thing on that platform.
Yeah.
And half the time it's unexplained. So I just want to put that out there to share that like you can learn those things, like that's not an innate skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for all of this. I mean, it's so insightful and so helpful. And, I think it lays a really clear foundation for people to start to create that strategy and start to implement it in their businesses. So thank you.
No problem. This is my pleasure. This is so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with all of your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some great things that can help you move from hustle to flow, because I believe in you and your business. Until next time.